I think it's so important to try and do what you want to do while you're able to do it, because you just never know how your life can change when you wake up in the morning. I know you have to save your money and everything, but you also have to live. You have to be happy, because if you're not happy, then you're just working to work and working to pay bills.
Welcome back to AudioLife. This week we have a very special story to share with you. Now, if you listened to our New Year's show, I talked about this person already, though I didn't share her name. I told you about a woman who shared the most amazing story of co-parenting and a truly blended family with her daughter, her ex-husband, his new wife, and their boys. She was also known as a baker that brought cakes for every single birthday in the office. She had a room in her home devoted to chocolate making, which her grandkids dubbed the chocolate room, and they loved it. She talked about isolation during COVID and how she and her family broke the rules to see each other. And she talks about living with ALS today. It's a story of triumph and true inspiration, and I'm so pleased that Susan Rowe and her family have given us permission to share her story with you all today. Now, many of you may not know this, but at AudioLife, we aren't just a public podcast. Our mission is to capture and preserve as many diverse voices and stories as possible for generations to come. And in fulfilling that mission, we run a private podcasting service for people and families to record and share their stories, like Susan Rowe's, which was actually a Mother's Day gift from her daughter and son-in-law. We also do community projects and nonprofit work highlighting historical events in communities. And in some cases, like today, we get permission to share these with you, the public. So I'm Carrie Purcell, one of your founders at AudioLife, and usually your host of this podcast. But today, you will hear the talented voice of Grace Chen as she interviews the truly inspirational Susan Rowe. And I hope you all enjoy the story ahead.
Welcome to your AudioLife interview, where we record your story in your voice. Today, it is my pleasure to speak with Susan Rowe on this day, June 26, 2024. And we're going to talk about her life, her childhood, her relationships, and memories. I'm your host today, Grace Chen, and excited to stroll down memory lane with Susan. So let's get started, and we'll start with something easy, Susan. Can you please tell us where you were born, and is there a story behind your name?
Okay, well, I was born in Montreal in a hospital that was called Doctor's Hospital, which doesn't even exist now. And the history of my name, I guess, my dad was born in Newfoundland, and so I have many, many Newfoundland relatives. And there's, I guess, a good portion of them are Rowes, and the other side of the family are Smiths. So it's a pretty common, the Smith name, you know. But that's really the background of my name from Newfoundland.
That sounds good. It's good to know. Now, if you could think, what are 3 words you would use to describe yourself?
Oh, 3 words to describe myself. Happy, very emotional, and I would say loving.
Loving. Those are 3 really good ones. I'm sure as we learn more about you, Susan, we're going to see some of the descriptions and themes come out. Happy, emotional, and loving. All right. Yeah. Let's go back in time to your early days and into your childhood.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about your childhood. What was it like growing up?
I don't have, now I'm going to have a hard time because I'm going to probably tear up a bit. So I really don't remember a lot about my childhood. I had 2 wonderful parents, and unfortunately my mom died really young. So I think what I've done is kind of blocked a lot of things out just to not remember those things. But I guess once my mom passed away, that's probably the part that I can start remembering a lot, because that's when, not long after, I graduated from high school and had great friends in high school. One of my friends, very close friend, her name was Della, and we were getting ready to go to our grad, but the two of us didn't have any dates and no one asked us. So she talked to her brother and she said, can you take my friend and can you get a friend to take me? And anyway, and that's what happened. We went to the prom together, and as it turns out, she had shown me pictures of her both brothers. And I said, oh, okay, well, I'll pick that one, not the other one, because the other one, he looks like Flat Top from Dick Tracy. And as it turns out, 2 years later, I married Flat Top from Dick Tracy. Because I just, I went out with her other brother and we went for the prom and everything was fun. But because I was so much in their family, and her mom was kind of took me under her wing. And I ended up starting dating Flat Top, and it just went on from there. And we got married, and then I had a daughter 3 years later, I guess. Okay. And my daughter today she's going to be 45 this year. So we only had the one daughter. We did end up getting divorced a few years later, but her dad is still very much in my life because I ended up meeting somebody and he met someone else. And the four of us are great friends. I mean, really great friends. And we see each other all the time. We go on vacations together. And his wife comes over and takes care of me a lot. She's here a lot, takes me out. And we have just an amazing, amazing life together. And have for, since my daughter she was probably about 4 years old, I guess, 4 or 5. And she was living part-time with me, part-time with her dad. Mm-hmm. And she asked me if I would decorate her bedroom at her father's house. So sure enough, she checked and they said, yeah, okay. And I went over there and I decorated her bedroom. And then, of course, her kids, she had children. And they said, hey, Mom, how come Holly gets to get her room done? Can't we get our room done? So the next thing you know, I'm doing their room. And then one day on my way out, I looked in their bedroom, and I said, I could really make your bedroom look a lot nicer. Wow. So they said, here's the credit card. Do what you want. They gave me the credit card. I picked all the colors, the wallpaper, everything. And I completely redecorated their bedroom. And my ex-husband, his name is Alan. His wife is Brenda. So Brenda, she said, this seems a bit weird having your husband's ex-wife redecorate your bedroom. What's wrong with that picture? But we are just fabulous friends. And I've kept quite in touch with Alan's family as well. And his brother, the brother that I went to the prom with, his name is Gary, married to Marie. And they are here all the time as well. We had our kids at the same time. Marie and I were pregnant at the same time and just had a ball on our maternity leave. And it was just fabulous. So that's how far I can go back with my child, because I don't really have a lot that I remember. There's one thing that I can say that I remember about my mom is she worked, and I do remember her probably every payday. She would come home and bring me a sweater, she'd go to the store and buy me a sweater. And that's a big recollection that I have. It's probably what turned me into the fanatic I am buying clothes, because I love clothes, but that I remember, almost every 2 weeks I'd get a brand new sweater, and it was it's a good memory that I have. Yeah, really.
That's a lovely memory.
Yeah.
That's a lovely one. Amazing. You covered quite a bit of ground already in a short time, in the sense that I can get the sense that you've really, the loving part comes through, and the family aspect of who you are, that you keep people close to you. The unusual, what seems to be an unusual relationship that you have with your ex-husband, and really maybe probably a better relationship post-divorce in a lot of ways,
exactly.
Right?
Well, we just have a much, much bigger family now, because any parties we go to, if they have something, we're there. If we have something, they're here. And Holly ended up with 3 brothers from her dad's side, and she's got 2 brothers from my husband's side. So she's got 5 brothers all together, and everybody's very close. So it's really, really good. Yeah.
Yes.
Really good.
Family is important for sure.
Very.
Let me step back a little bit. You talked about high school memories being pretty clear also, but
Yes.
we're going to step back a little bit for a little bit longer. And you just mentioned one of your fond memories about your mother buying you sweater every 2 weeks, which is a really beautiful and cute memory. Who would you say during your younger years, and you can include teenage, young adult, whatever span, were there any individuals that were particularly influential on you?
Oh, yeah. So my mother had a sister, Jacqueline, we called Auntie Jackie, and she was very much part of our lives when we were growing up. We used to go to, and she lived with my grandma, actually, and we would go to visit grandma, and of course Auntie Jackie lived there, and her daughter, Linda, which is my cousin. So I would say those are the ones that we grew up with really the most. And the fun that I had with my Auntie Jackie, going over there, and she'd always buy goodies for us to take to bed together. And I used to sleep in her bed with her, and we'd have snacks and chocolate bars and just have a great old time. Really, really a good time. And she used to also take us, now that you're saying that, my parents never had a car, but Auntie Jackie did. So we would go on vacations that we could go in a car. So it would be Auntie Jackie and Linda, my mother, father, and I have a brother also. So myself and my brother. And we would go on car vacations together. So Toronto, we went to Boston, any places close by that you could drive to. And so she was very, very part of my life, as well as my ex-mother-in-law, if you want to call her. For me, she was always my mother-in-law, even though we weren't married anymore. But she was, Ethel was her name, Ethel Manning, and she was like a second mother to me, really. She was there all the time, took care of my daughter, and she was always so worried that poor little Holly, the poor little result of a divorce, and oh my God, is she going to be able to, will she eat enough, and will she do this and do that? And Holly was her first grandchild, and my God, she adored that kid. There was a connection for sure, because Holly had her own children when her grandma passed away, but she was always going and visiting her, and she was a very much part of her grandma's life. Just as my grandchildren, Holly's 2 children, they are right now 17 and nearly 16, and I'm fortunate to live 2 streets away from them. And they come by all the time, and they bring their friends here. And I mean, I can see my granddaughter doing it with her friends. But my grandson, he's like 16 years old, and he comes over with his buddies, and they all know me. And I guess I'm pretty much known for my candy table in the house. I always have a table with every kind of candy you can have, and I keep it well stocked. And everybody knows it. And they come in and they go right to that candy table, and sometimes fill their pockets with some, So I think I'm getting a little bit off track there, but
that's okay. No, good stories. You were influenced by your aunt Jackie, probably, with the candy, so you've passed it on to the next generation.
and Jackie for talking as well, because she could talk, and you'd be on the phone with her. And you'd say, okay, I got to go now, Auntie Jackie. And she'd say, yeah, okay. But did I tell you about, and she would you just couldn't get her off the telephone. She loved to talk. And then I became a bit like her, and my daughter will say, okay, Auntie Jackie, that's enough. You can stop now. So that's a pretty funny thing. And so anybody who talks a little too much, now they get called Auntie Jackie.
Oh, that's good to remember. I'm going to remember now to be an Auntie Jackie if we're chatting a little bit too much. Well,
exactly.
You've been surrounded by love, and you're also incredibly generous. Just from the little bit I've known you for 10, 15 minutes, but just from your stories, you have a very, very open heart. And that must be partly why people are always coming into your life and drawn to you.
I guess so. Yeah.
I think so. So let's talk a little bit about education and career for you. Did you attend school or receive any formal education?
Okay, well, I graduated from high school, and that was back in 1972. Of course, back in those days, not that any of my grandchildren can realize it, but back in those days, if you were a woman, you pretty much didn't go into any kind of a career path. You were going into a secretarial path and with the goal of getting married and having a bunch of babies. So like most of my friends, we went to secretarial studies, and I graduated from high school in 72, almost immediately got a job at the same company that my mother had worked for, but she had passed away, and I ended up working for the same man that she had worked for. And it was at a company named Uniroyal. And I worked there for probably a year and a half, and then the company was going to move to Toronto. So I thought, oh, I can't leave. I don't know anybody there. And I applied at a company here on the South Shore of Montreal called Pratt Whitney Canada. And I started there in 74, and I worked there for 40 years. I never left that company. I stayed there for 40 years. So different jobs within the company, but 40 years for the same company. And I retired when I was 58.
Okay.
So a lot of memories. And when I worked at Pratt, almost from the very, very beginning of working there, I loved to bake. I knew everybody's birthday in every department that I worked in, and I would make cakes for all their birthdays. And I had a little piggy bank that was an elephant, and I left it on my desk, and I didn't ask anybody to pay for anything, but if anybody wanted to put in a quarter or whatever, it would help pay for the next cake that I'd have to make. It went on, and I baked cakes. I have made thousands of cakes because I baked them for everybody that I ever worked with, and then I got to a point where I was making them every Friday for the meeting. And actually, when I retired from Pratt, I started up kind of my own little thing, doing chocolates and cakes. I made some beautiful wedding cakes, and I even had a Facebook page, the whole works. And I used to have chocolate orders, and I had a room in my house that was just for making chocolates. And of course, there was one of those Murphy beds in it. So when the grandchildren would come over, can we sleep in the chocolate room? And I'd pull that bed out, and of course then they could sneak and pick some chocolate out of the containers and candies, and they really loved that chocolate room. That's some of what I can tell you about working.
That's amazing. That is, and you're an entrepreneur, or later on. I
had so much fun.
And that you made all those cakes for everyone. First of all, how generous of you and thoughtful. And so you, not that the only reason why people should be friends with you is because of the cake, but you must have really fostered some amazing relationships with your coworkers.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. That's for sure. I mean, I met more people, and to this day, I still remember a lot of their birthdays, even from 40 years ago. You know, right. The people that I first started working with, and it's lots of very good memories.
Lots of good memories. Any favorite cake? Do you have a favorite one to make, or ones that people loved? It sounds like you've tried a lot of different cakes, so.
I guess probably the one that people loved the most.
Yeah.
Or certainly the ones where I last worked. It was a white chocolate cheesecake, and they would go crazy for it. It really was to die for. To die for, exactly.
It sounds
Black Forest cakes, and I'd make bread. I didn't always make a big cake. Sometimes it would be a pan of brownies or something very simple. And now you just made me think of something funny that happened.
Okay.
I just thought of thing with the brownies. I had made a big pan of brownies, brought them into work. I never, ever had something that wasn't good. And this one day, I brought these brownies, and because I never really ate anything because I was always on a diet. So I wouldn't even taste stuff, but I knew it was okay, Anyway, these brownies required, I don't remember how much, maybe a half a cup of oil or something. Well, I didn't know it, and the oil had gone bad, and I didn't even know. So I made these brownies, and now they're all like taking a bite, and they're making all these little faces and everything. And it's like, I said, what's wrong? Well, the brownies taste funny. Really? Anyway, I took a bite of, oh, God. It was so horrible. I mean, you couldn't even imagine how bad it was, but it was the oil that had gone bad, and I didn't realize it. So that's one thing I can remember about the cakes.
I'm sure they forgave you. I'm sure it was the thought that counts.
Yeah, and also during that time I took cake decorating courses. So I don't know how often they were, but every time I went, we decorated a cake, and I was learning all these techniques. Well, I always brought my cakes into work, so they had some really fancy cakes, wedding cakes and all kinds of things. It was a lot of fun. That's probably what I miss the most right now, is not being able to make my cakes or do my chocolates, because I made, I can't tell you how many pounds of chocolates that I have made in my lifetime, Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you were able to do something that you really love doing, and you were able to do it even while you were working your day job at the same time.
Oh, yes, for sure. For sure. Many nights I'd be up till 3 a.m, and like Easter or something like that, making chocolates at 3 a.m, so I could bring them with me into work the next day, because they'd buy them from me. I'd bring them out, and I had little salesmen everywhere in the building, and they'd have chocolates on their desks, and they would sell all the chocolates. I had my brother that worked in one plant, and one girl in shipping. Her name was Arlene, who's also a very, very best friend of mine, and my brother Bobby in plant 1. But the problem is, when I retired, well, they were still selling them for me, but then they all retired, so I had no more salesmen. But then by that time, people were calling me directly at home. So it still went on for quite some time. Yeah.
What a great story. What a great legacy. Everyone remembers, I'm sure. Excellent. So let's shift topics now. Let's talk about relationships. I think I asked, in your early life, did you have someone who was influential? And you mentioned Aunt Jackie.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your friendships. I can tell you have so many friends. How have friendships shaped your journey through life?
Oh, well, most of my friends that I have, I've got to think that I've known them for 50 years, because they're the same friends that I had in school, like in high school, early on in my life. And it's not a huge group, but if it was a big tree trunk, there's so many branches from those people. So I know all their children, their parents, their grandchildren. So because of that, I've got hundreds and hundreds of people that I know over the years, but they all come from that main group that I've been hanging around with for 50 years. I've got quite a few friends that I've been hanging around with for many, many years. I've just had such a great life, really. Never without a place to go for a party, or even just to hang around, swim by the pool. Of course, I said our families got bigger when I married my husband, who I'm married to now. And we've been married for, we just passed 15 years, but we've been living together for 35. It's all his side of the family and his kids and our grandchildren from his children. So we've got 5 grandchildren together, ranging in age from about 11 all the way up to 20 years old. And of course, all their friends I've met, all the grandchildren's friends. And it's just, I'm so lucky, really, to have that many people that I know. And I could call any one of them, I bet you, and it would be nothing for them to come and help me. really.
That's so beautiful to picture. I love the tree trunk metaphor that you use. You have a very
leaves and
extended family, and so you're never alone in that sense, and for most of your years. And maybe you said Montreal. So have you mostly stayed in the same area as far as where you've lived across time?
Yeah, I'm born in Montreal and then grew up all of my life on the south shore of Montreal, and then recently moved back to Montreal because I needed to be in a place where I could get around in a wheelchair. So my daughter and son-in-law, they bought a condo right near where they live so that I could be that close and they could be here if I called. I mean, I've seen them get here within 2 minutes if I needed something, like if there was something serious or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And now for a word from our sponsors. Ready to share your stories and life philosophy? Or capture those of a parent or grandparent? Or maybe a corporate package is right for you to build connection across your workforce and add value to your clients. Visit audiolife.io today to learn more. Our listeners will get 10% off using discount code GIFT10 and order number AudioLife Podcast. AudioLife, where memories find their voice.
Since you're mentioning this, and you and I chatted before this recording, you told me that you have ALS, and if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about the history of that, all of it from the beginning, at whatever point it started, and where you are now.
Well, we had in 2018, I believe it was, we decided that we would sell our home and move to a condo, which we never thought we'd ever do in a million years. But my husband is 15 years older than I am, and I could see it was getting hard. It's shoveling the snow and doing everything. And we had a summer place that we'd be gone all summer. So it's all trying to get the grass cut and everything. So we decided, okay, let's sell the house and move to a condo. So it took us a while to get the one that we wanted, but we finally managed to buy it. And we were going to move in 2019 in March. I think it's March, doesn't matter, but it's in the beginning of the year. But I had a lot of problems because I had packed so many boxes because I had accumulated a lot of things. You can see many of my friends can vouch for that because they had to help me tremendously when I had to move. Because on the night before the move, I fell down the stairs outside the condo and broke my wrist and ended up in the hospital. But I hadn't completely emptied the house, and the movers were coming the next day. I had to cancel everything. So that was I didn't realize that was maybe where the ALS had started, but I had a lot of trouble, pains in my back, and I had a hard time walking. So that whole year in 2019, I couldn't really walk. I could walk, but it was so painful that it just didn't make sense. So I tried chiropractor, physiotherapist, everything that you can imagine. And I did it for almost a year. And then my daughter said, "Mom, you got to go see somebody or something, do something about it." So a friend of hers, mom, worked at the Montreal General in the orthopedic section. So she just got me an appointment quite quickly, which you don't get easily for a specialist. And right away, the specialist said, "I don't think it's your back. I think there's something neurological." So that was in January. And then the pandemic started. And by the time I finally got to the doctor that diagnosed me, it was May. And he did one test, but they also knew the background of how much I had tried with chiro and physio and all that. And he did one test and sat my daughter and I down on May the 26th, 2020, and said, "You have ALS." And it was like, oh my God, because Holly, my daughter, one of her best friends' dad had ALS. And he had it at the time of the Ice Bucket Challenge. I don't know if you remember the Ice Bucket Challenge. And, we all did the Ice Bucket Challenge, never even thinking that I would have ALS down the line. But anyway, so from that moment on, of course, we had just moved into that condo. We weren't even there a year. Now I had to move because it was a 3-level condo. Upstairs, downstairs, and a basement. I couldn't live there. So that's when Holly and Will looked around and found a condo here on Nuns Island, where they live 2 streets away. So here I am today, and over the time, they said I would be in a wheelchair probably within a year, and it was pretty close to that. But the first year, even though I couldn't walk very much, I had to always sit. I bought myself kind of a drafting chair on wheels, and I rolled around and I did everything. I painted, I put wallpaper up, I did everything that I used to do sitting on that chair. I used to vacuum on that chair. And I did a lot, really. I did a lot. For the first 2 years, I had full use of my arms. So I could vacuum, I could do things, I could cook still, as long as I was sitting down. But then gradually, I've been in a wheelchair for at least three years, I guess. And now I'm in my official I passed my 4th year this year, May 2024. So, but I mean, I can't do anything, but I don't miss any of the family gatherings. Someone comes and picks me up and they get me in the car. And yesterday, Brenda, Alan's wife, she came and picked me up and we went out shopping for chocolate stuff, because now she's going to make some chocolates for her son, who's getting married in July this year. And then we went around the Walmart, puttered around, got some groceries. Then she brought me home, and my brother too, once a week with his wife, or sometimes not. He'll come over and do handy things around the house or take me out shopping. You want to go to Costco? Where do you want to go this week? So I'm surrounded by people who help me to be like I used to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, don't be.
No, I'm okay.
You are loved.
Yeah, I do. I really have a good life. All things considered, it's pretty darn good.
Yeah. Susan, you are impressive and you are strong, and you've given so much to those around you. So it's so lovely to hear that you have so many people around you. Let me ask you, what about you, Susan, do you feel has changed through this experience? How are you different?
I don't think I'm different at all, except I can't move. I just don't feel any different. I feel as young as I did, maybe a little more tired, but I don't feel any different. I'm just hoping maybe they'll find something that could help me. I don't think they'll ever maybe correct it, but maybe something could stop it, because I could still live forever even the way I am. Because I told everybody, as long as I can eat and talk and have my rum and cokes, I'm good. I'm good.
Rum and coke, I love it. Your spirit is infectious. I really love that. Thank you, Susan. Let's talk about societal changes. You were sharing earlier, I think it was 1972, you graduated high school. I think that's what. Yeah. And you were talking about, you were reflecting on how at that time girls were expected to, had a certain path in life already set before them. Right. Obviously, times are quite different now, and you've had the benefit of living through multiple decades to be able to see in hindsight the changes, and you've witnessed all kinds of things. Which events through the course of your life and watching society, which events have had the most impact on you?
Oh boy, that's a good one, huh? Well, I mean, probably one that had a big impact on everybody is what we went through in the pandemic. Never in my whole imagination could I ever expect to have gone through that, because I just can't even believe what we went through, because it's like we all lost a couple of years in our life. However, I also have to say that during that pandemic, it's true, we couldn't see anybody, we couldn't do anything. But one thing that did remain, my daughter living only 2 streets away, and neither one of us was going to say, okay, well, I'm not coming to see you because of the pandemic. If something happens. We're gonna still see each other. And we spent so much time together. I mean, sometimes you look back and say, boy, some of those pandemic nights were fun because they'd sneak over here because you weren't allowed to visit anybody. They would, make sure no one was around, no cop cars, and they'd come in here, and then we would have suppers together and watch hockey games together, and we really did have a good time. And one of the very first times where, because here I don't think you didn't have that, I don't think in New Jersey, but here they had a curfew, and we were not allowed to go out of our homes after 8 o'clock at night. I mean, can you imagine, stuck in your house? Well, Holly and her husband and the kids, they did come over. Now it was time to go home, and the kids were little. They were, it's about 5 years ago, I guess, 4 years ago. So, they were in their early teens, and they were scared when they were leaving. They were like, well, Daddy, what happens if the police catch us? And, to think that those kids had to go through that, of visiting their grandma, and they've got to be worried they might get held by the police if they were caught out, and that was a bit sad that they had to feel that. But boy, oh boy, did we get to spend a lot of time together. And sometimes we do reflect back and say, remember when we used to, every night we'd have supper together, and because nobody could go anywhere, but they would always come here. So the pandemic is a big thing in my life. The birth of my grandchildren, that was quite epic. When I got married a second time, because I married Holly's dad, I only had 2 real men in my life, my ex-husband and my husband now, and they're also extremely good friends. And so I have to say yes, I know. You know how many people, they are, I guess, inspired or whatever, because, people get divorced, right?
Yeah.
But they don't see couples like myself and my ex and how we've become this big family where it's like my ex-husband is really, I would say, like a brother to me. So it's like, another branch on the tree, So an epic moment in my life is when I got married the second time. That was, it was something I really, really wanted. Never thought it would happen, and it did. So that was pretty good time.
Pretty good time. I want to ask an extension question since we're talking about your marriages.
Yeah.
And this could be advice for whoever might be listening to this someday. And like you said, most couples, when they get divorced, they're either estranged, or there's tension, or it's awkward. Is there a secret ingredient to this that where your ex and your current husband can be friends and you can be friends with is there something about you or the way the relationship has worked that has made all of this work?
Well, when people get divorced, they get divorced for all kinds of different reasons.
Right.
When my husband and I got divorced, it wasn't because I met somebody or he met somebody, or it wasn't going to work, So we parted ways, and then I met my husband now, and he met Brenda. But those 2 people were not part of the reason why we got divorced. Brenda was my God, she was so good, because even though we separated and everything, and well, I have to say it wasn't great in the beginning. I could have killed him, but she really helped me to be able to get over that, because she kind of stuck up for me a lot, because things would happen between us, but because of my daughter, and I was working, but I lived on my own. I didn't make a big salary, and he was working, and he had a good job, there was this one occasion that my daughter had to go to some reading thing for school, and she really wanted to go, but I couldn't go because I had something going on at work. But Alan figured that it didn't matter that I had something, just take the time off, and he said, well, I can't. So I was devastated, and I got off the phone crying, and the next thing you know, Brenda's calling me. She said, don't you worry, I'm going to take Holly. Alan should never have talked to you like that. And she was like, so we just clicked, and the kids also made a big difference, because the kids were very, Holly with the 3 boys, I mean, those children, her brothers, they're like real brothers to her. She was so close to them. She lived with them, 1 week at a 2, and from a very young age. I think she was 4 when they moved together, 4 or 5, something like that. So, the children being part of it. And Holly would always refer to us as, this is one set of parents, and this is my other set of parents. And we did everything together. So it just naturally just grew into a really great relationship. I don't think everybody has that opportunity.
Yeah.
To be able to develop it,
Right.
And we're just like good friends. I didn't divorce him because I didn't love him. It just didn't work anymore, So,
Right.
So
Very inclusive family.
Yeah, for all those out there, boy, you can make it be a lot happier for your children and your whole life if you part and you can't keep some kind of joy.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah, that is important advice. I think many people are hurting out there and need to hear that there is a way. So thank you so much for sharing that.
There is, for sure.
And it's worth it.
Definitely.
All right. Another question for you, Susan. And this is going to be a new topic altogether, but how do you feel technology has changed your life? How have you felt that technology has changed your life?
Thank goodness for technology. That's all I can say.
Mm-hmm.
Because had I gotten sick, let's say, if it had been 20 years ago, let's say, the pandemic helped with that as well, I really can't do anything, but I can talk and I can use my iPad. And up until recently, I could actually, with my fingers, use the iPad. Now I can't, but I can do it with this assistive technology on my iPad. So I can't even imagine what my world would be had I not been doing banking online and buying groceries online. And because for me, nothing's really changed in that respect. I can do everything that I did. I just don't do it physically. I don't go out to the stores, but I can tell you, Mr. Amazon, when they come to my house, they'd ring the doorbell and they say, Susan, are you home? That kind of thing, because all my shopping is pretty much done through Amazon, be it groceries, things we need for the house, things that I want, because I just saw it advertised and I thought, I think I'd like to have that. So FaceTime, just being able to do what we're doing right now.
Right.
Telephones, cellular telephones.
Yeah.
You can be reached at any moment, or you can even turn them in such a way that you won't be reached. I mean, it's just phenomenal. My parents, I don't know what they would see. Electric cars. I mean, when I was growing up, we didn't even have a colored TV. Now they have TVs that are 80 inches and 90 inches big, and everything has just gone from very rudimentary to anything is possible. Anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
Yeah.
And it's allowed you to continue to live your life the way you want to live it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not exactly.
Okay, not exactly. That's true.
It is. It's not 100% great, but it's darn good. I mean, I have an electric, or not an electric chair, a motorized wheelchair. So I get around. I can go out. I used to be much more able to go out when I was a little more confident. I've had a couple of things happen, like driving my wheelchair into bushes at the shopping center when I was by myself, and it was at night, and I had to yell from a bunch of bushes, "Help! Is anybody out there? Help! Help!" So since that happened, I tend to make sure I go out with somebody. But I was quite daring in the beginning. I could go out of here. I had an opener for the door downstairs, and I'd go to the grocery store, pick up my daughter some flowers, because she said when she moved to the house, she wished she could always have flowers on her kitchen counter. So I would go over there and pick up flowers, and I'd roll over to her place. And I couldn't get into her house because the way their house was, I couldn't get in. But they managed to buy some ramps, and the very first Christmas they were in that house, my son-in-law did that whole structure, and on Christmas Eve they got me up those ramps. There had to be 3 or 4 different ramps getting me into their house, and I was able to spend Christmas Eve inside their house. I've never seen the second floor, but I've seen the main floor and I've seen the basement. So that was a great Christmas present, to be able to go into her house. Yeah, that was really good. And now most of the time everybody comes here because it's just easier for me when people come to me, and So,
Sure. You make the modifications that are necessary so that you can still do what's important, which is to see your friends and your loved ones and to enjoy your Amazon deliveries or whatever that is. Excellent. All right. So now let's, we just have a couple more questions for you, Susan.
Okay.
Can you share some life lessons or wisdom you've accumulated over the years? And really, you can take this from any angle. Whether it's just living life until now or more recent experiences, but just generally speaking for whoever's going to be listening to this, a life lesson or wisdom you'd like to pass on?
Oh, gosh.
I know, sorry.
Oh, it's a tough one there. I mean, I could go on for hours, probably. I would be like an Auntie Jackie in this case.
This is a good one, though, to be Auntie Jackie.
Yeah, a good one. Yeah, Auntie Jackie, life lessons. Oh, gosh. Live for the moment. Don't deny yourself of doing something because, when I get older, I'm going to do this, or when I get older, I'm going to do that. I think it's so important to try and do what you want to do while you're able to do it, because you just never know how your life can change when you wake up in the morning. And I've seen it happen, not just to myself, but to other people. And you can lose a lot by planning for the future. I know you have to save your money and everything, but you also have to live. You have to be happy, because if you're not happy, then you're just working to work and working to pay bills. We got to work. We have no choice. We have to pay our bills, but you got to do something that you enjoy doing too. Yeah.
That's wise, very wise advice. I put this in quotes. When you see younger people now, the younger generation, the ones that are hustling and, like you mentioned, working and trying to figure their life out, maybe it's people in their 30s or even 40s. What do you observe about society today when you see the most active generation of quote unquote young people?
Young people, I guess that's where technology maybe is a little bit not on the good side.
Okay.
Because people, you don't really see a whole lot of people sitting around talking with each other. They're all on their phones. You could go in anybody's house, and if there's a few kids around, even the adults, and everybody, that's what they do, is they're on their telephones. And as much as I like to use my telephone, I will never pick it over talking with people that are around me. I don't even like watching movies with other people, because if there's people in the room, I want to talk to them. I don't want to have to be focusing on my television. So it's too bad that kids don't know what it's like to live with a little bit less technology, because and also it is creating a lot of problems for the young ones. I think they're so it's so easy for them to see what everybody has and what everybody does and what they look like, and it's hard for them. We didn't have any of that competition, if you want, because if you had your friend, unless you actually phoned them or went and saw them, you weren't going to see about them on a website. So not a website, but on the social media. I mean, social media is great. I was able to catch up with some people I hadn't talked to for 50 years. I used to babysit for a lady. It's over 50 years ago, and because of Facebook, I found her and recently got in touch with her, and her children were like tiny baby, 2 and 4 years old when I babysat them, and now they're 50, and I don't remember all the ages. The 2 girls are nurses, and I actually got to communicate with that lady who, when I was growing up, I babysat for her, and it was like I was like a mother of her children. I had so much fun. You know, when you're a little girl and you want to play with your dolls, but I had real dolls. It was just amazing. Really, it was really amazing. Changing diapers, and so I guess that's probably what I think about when I see the young ones today.
Yeah.
They're too busy on their phones, I guess, really. There should be a time of the day, or at least, I don't know, where you can't use them. It would be, unless it was an emergency, of course. But
that's great that you reflected on that. It is a double-edged sword, technology. It is incredible for the things it does for us, but there is a downside, especially if for those of us who grew up without certain technologies, and then to know what that was like, and now to see, I think that's actually, but we can benefit from that, but not all the young ones can. So
I have no idea what it was like.
No,
really.
Yeah.
And now in workplaces, if you want to get somebody to do something, like within an instant, they get the question. When we used to have a question, we'd have to write it on a piece of paper. It would go into the internal mail, and it would take a week before they even got to see your question. Like we had so much more time to get things done, because you could shift papers around, but not anymore.
Not anymore. Time is a precious commodity. When you didn't. Now we don't have much of it, to be honest. That just goes across everyone, with or without technology. Everything moves so fast now.
Very fast.
Just before I wrap up, you're a wonderful storyteller. You really, really are. So whatever you want to call yourself, Auntie Jackie or whatever, but it's actually so nice to hear all of the stories that you've shared.
I go a lot by Grandma.
Grandma, there you go. Well, your stories are pretty awesome, Grandma. So as we wrap up, is there anything else you would like to share that we maybe haven't touched on during this chat?
Oh, gosh. I mean, not that I can really pinpoint, because I think we did cover a lot of things, and
we did.
And I'm happy with all the things that we got to talk about, because, gosh, I could go on and on forever. It's this could be a weekly thing, You
might want to have your own podcast, actually. You probably could, Susan. Well, then for now, we're going to wrap things up. I really want to thank you so much for sharing all of your many, many stories, which really paint a picture of you, Susan. You are happy. You are a feeling and emotional person. You have so much love, and anyone who's around you on your little tree and the branches is very, very fortunate to be a part of your life, and the other way around. So
well, I'm fortunate to have them and to keep feeding them from the nutritions that they need.
Yes, that's a wonderful way of putting it. So as we wrap up for today, I want to thank you for taking time to share your story, Susan, and record your audio memoir. It has been my honor to be the one to interview you today and to learn about your amazing life experiences. If you want to, you can say goodbye to the audience, and then be officially done.
Okay, well, thanks, everybody. I have really enjoyed this, and I hope everybody enjoys some of my stories. Thank you, Holly and Will and the kids, for my gift. I'll say goodbye.
Today I had the chance to speak with Susan Rowe, and what a delightful conversation it was. If you listen through the podcast and all of Susan's stories, her descriptors of happy, emotional, and loving really shine through. And by the end, and after hearing her multiple stories and her chapters in life, the theme that really comes through is that she will always choose joy above all else. It was lovely to meet Susan, and we will see you next time at AudioLife.
If you like what you heard today, consider recording your own AudioLife private podcast or giving one to a loved one for a unique and memorable gift. Today, AudioLife listeners will receive 10% off using discount code GIFT10 and order number AudioLife Podcast. Also, remember to rate our show and subscribe so you'll never miss an episode.